Hey everybody, it's Chris from the Mind Unset. I'm here in my Airbnb in Bismarck, North Dakota. And the reason I'm up here is to sit for a portrait with the amazing photographer, Shane Balkovich. Now Shane, if you listen to the show at all, Shane was a guest back in December of 2022. And we talked about his process. He shoots this specific process of photography it's called wet plate collodion. It was a process developed in the 1850s and abandoned in the 1880s. And to keep it simple, the process is basically printing a photo on a piece of glass using pure silver and other chemicals. When we talked on the show, Shane invited me to come up to Bismarck and sit for a portrait. I thought it was an amazing opportunity, but I was honestly a little terrified to do it because the photos that Shane takes are unlike any modern photograph out there. The wet plate collodion process, essentially it feels like Shane is tapping into a part of your soul. So at the time, if you've listened to the show, I've been talking about transition, I've been talking about all this stuff that I felt like I was going through, and I was honestly a little bit petrified to sit in front of the camera because I didn't want any of that unsettledness to come through in the picture. The last episode I just did, episode 55, talks about this, so I'm not going to go into great detail. And episode 54, you got to go to know, also gives you way more backstory than I want to give you right now. So essentially what I'm doing for this little interview is I recently just went to Shane's studio and I shot some video footage that I was going to use. Further down the road, I was going to maybe write a story or create a blog or even put it in a podcast. But when I watched the footage, I thought it was way too cool for me to distill down, and I figured why not just let Shane do it in his own words, and hopefully there's enough of these little vignettes that we can tell a cool little story. But I just wanted to do this little intro for you so you knew what was coming up, because basically I'm going to drop you in right at the moment where I enter Shane's studio. So here we go. Without further ado, enjoy the story of the photograph. All right, man, this is the space. Look at this. No artificial light, right?
No, we'll open up I'll show you how beautiful the light is. Northern facing light. So Dr. Raymer wrote a definitive book in 1906 about building the best natural light photography studio. So it's that historic book that I used to design the pitch and the size of this window. So skylights and side lights. When you northern facing, you'll see that there's never any shadows here. Normally, if this was southern facing, you'd have all these shadows on the ground and across people's faces in the scene. But if you use northern facing light, you get this beautiful.
And you got the bounce off that fence around your pool.
Well, I also get a
natural
bounce in the winter when it snows. A big bank builds up there, and I get all this bounce from this natural reflection.
So none of those beams on that window come through and transfer onto the subject.
No, because it's northern facing. So they knew that. So the only time you'd everyone always said, well, you should have had your windows on the south side. I said, no, they figured this out 170 years ago. Everyone, you don't have them on the south side. The only time you'd have your windows on the south side of your building if you're in South America. You're always facing your windows away from the sun. I only get a little bit of slivers of sunlight actually coming in directly into the studio every couple months out of the year. You'll see like some natural light. So these are silver on glass images that will be here 1,000 years from now unbroken.
Guess what the name of my podcast episode tomorrow is? 1,000 years from now.
1,000 years from now. It's perfect. It's my first camera. I was 44 years of age.
And there's the famous bolo hat. I mean, this is inexplicable. Like, I can't even capture it because of the glare. But
yeah,
like
it's really difficult to get.
When you're in person,
Photograph.
they're
Eve and Satan.
I love that. I love that.
Fake Eve and Satan.
I mean, the richness.
We just did this a couple weeks ago. Just painted her arms black. Paint from here on out. And the arms disappear. That's how I removed my wife's head and what my, which I consider my masterpiece is this piece right here. So my wife has Samothrace, the statue at the Louvre. That's my wife. We went to the Louvre, and at the top of the staircase, the Winged Victory is sitting there, and Bonnie just fell in love with it. So my prop master spent 8 months making that outfit, and it would have been easy enough, right, Chris, just to like set that on a dress form. I wouldn't have to worry about the movement or anything. I could take as many wet plates. I could have turned it whatever angle I wanted, and the whole time I said no. I want my wife in it. So when I could tell people that's a portrait of my wife. And how did I remove her head? It's all in camera.
And this is the gentleman right here that started this, Goff, in Bismarck?
He was a photographer, O.S. Goff, yep, Orlando Scott Goff. So this is, I spent 2 years with a historian, Lou Hoffermill. He was building a boat. This is up your alley. So Lou was building a boat, like this little rowboat, from a kit he bought. And he was in his little garage, and he didn't have a heater in it, and he was working in there. It was fall, just around this time. And he goes, yeah, I got to shut it down till the spring. I can't continue on my boat till the spring. I said, well, why? He says, because it's too small space, and I don't have any heat, and I can't work in the winter. I said, fuck that. I said, bring your boat down to my shop. I freaking cleared out boxes and shit. I set up the spot. Herb, I keep saying Herb. Lou brought in his boat, parked it there, and like for 6 months, every day he'd show up and he'd be freaking making coffee and he'd be sanding and doing all the tying his little copper pieces and polishing them down and all this stuff. We put this boat together, and this rowboat, and we took it out, and I took here's the boat. So when it was finished, I took him out to the lake, and we captured Lou Hoffermill in his boat. So he says, well, I owe you something. I said, well, you don't owe me anything. He says, no, I've been out here making this dusty mess of your back warehouse for these many months. You let me finish my boat in here. I owe you something. I said, well, if you owe me something, do me this. You're a historian, you used to work for the State Historical Society. I said, I know about this O.S. Goff guy that nobody ever, he's completely forgotten. He's this frontier photographer nobody gives a shit about. Nobody's spoken his name for 100 years. I said, do me a favor, do a story on him. So he freaking spent 2 years, and he went, even found Goff's grave, and so we were able to, in this book, it was 16 pages was all we were able to get. But then we pitched it to the Historical Society. This is their quarterly review, and usually you'd get in here and there'd be 5 other journals or something like that. They decided to just dedicate the entire journal to our story on Orlando Scott Goff. So if you type in Orlando Scott Goff on Google, which was my goal, the first thing that comes up is this article that talks about this man.
And the significance of Goff is he took this picture of Sitting Bull right here.
Yes, in 1882 in Bismarck.
1882.
At the blockhouse. It's right here. And then it's right here. There's a picture of the blockhouse right here.
And see, this all ties back.
Here's O.S. Goff with his wife and his daughter. Indian pictures in Dakota scene. And here him with his hat on in front of his studio. But he took the picture at, this is, these are all his photographs. So I helped the state, it's the blockhouse. Well, his studio was in this section of it. And there was a fire, and I want to see in the 1890s, that burnt down mostly Bismarck, and it destroyed this part of the building, and they tore it off. So you'll see it's missing in this day. So where his studio was isn't even there anymore. But this is what the building used to look like, and that's what it looks like. And I drove by this every day to work.
And so come full circle, there's Sitting Bull and Goff, but then you tie it together by coming over here and taking Ernie LaPointe. 100 years later.
135 years later.
135 years later, Ernie LaPointe is Sitting Bull's
great grandson, proven with DNA.
And that's how I found you, was through Ernie LaPointe.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, it's fantastic, right?
So
the collodion has a bromide salt in it. Collodion wasn't, Frederick Scott Archer, the man who invented wet plating, is here. This is a commissioned painting I did from an Italian painter. And my idea is we only have a couple of photographs of Frederick Scott Archer. And so I sent him one of the pictures of Frederick Scott Archer and said, do me a painting, but do me a favor. Put my bottle of collodion in his hand. And he did that painting. So these are the words of Frederick Scott Archer in 1851, which is called The Chemist. and a chemist was a scientific journal. You have to understand that wet plating photography was like the largest scientific achievement of the Victorian era.
Right.
I mean, there was nothing. I mean, this is going to the moon. Doing photographs is going to the moon. I mean, and it was in a scientific journal where he gave this process to the world, and he never made any money from it whatsoever. But he knew that there was collodion. Collodion had a medical application. As a nurse, I have an appreciation for that. If you were in the Civil War and you got a cut or something like that, or got a saber, or had some kind of wound, if you were a doctor, you'd have ether because you put people to sleep for pulling teeth or removing arms or doing any kind of surgery. And then you go to your gunsmith and you get gun cotton and you put the gun cotton in the ether and you make collodion. And then I could just go up to your arm where you have the wound and pour it in there and close your wound without any stitches. So it was like this medical glue that he knew about. And I've used it on my fingers here when I cut myself in the studio, and it hurts like a bitch. But he figured out, what Archer figured out is that if you had bromide salts into the collodion, you can get silver molecules that jump out of a silver nitrate bath and make a photosensitive plate. And that's the technology.
And this is your dark room.
In my dark
This is where all the processing happens.
That's where it all happens. So we have 3 hours until I get my daughter. So we're gonna do a portrait.
Today?
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
We can do another one on Friday, but we have some time here. Just us hanging out. We'll pour a drink, and we'll just do like a close up of your face. Nothing too creative. And then on Friday, you won't be like this virgin, and then you can get a little bit more creative with the pose or something like that.
All right.
What do you think?
I think it's great. We'll just break the mood right now.
Yeah.
All right. Shit. Good. That's the way to surprise me and just drop it on me. That's the way I work best anyway.
Any ideas?
I don't know. Tell me why red lights. Why?
Well, you have light spectrum, infrared.
Sure.
You get ultraviolets. You have two ends of the spectrum. You have the
red and the blue.
Red and the blue. Okay.
Right.
The blue is what the sun's giving us when we
Sure.
walk out this door. But the red is infrared light. And guess what infrared light is? Low energy. So my plates and all those photographs in any darkroom, it thinks that it's actually the emulsion is not sensitive enough to detect this red light in here. So essentially you're creating in the dark. The plate thinks it's in the dark. Well, it just happens to be enough red that the human eye can actually work in this environment and be able to do what we need to.
But the plate thinks it's dark.
But the plate thinks it's absolutely dark. And then, so this is low energy, and then this is high energy. So what's happening is that, do you know how I'm immersing these plates in silver nitrate, okay? Do you know how you make silver nitrate?
No.
You take nitric acid, and you take bars or coins of silver, and you put them in the nitric acid, and they dissolve.
They dissolve? No
What's
shit.
fantastic about that is that it dissolves and it's clear. It looks like water. So here you have this heavy metal, right? Silver, that dissolves and looks like
Clear. Perfectly
it's
clear.
absolutely insane. Is silver innate to Earth?
Isn't it the only one that is an innate?
Is it here? Is it naturally?
No, it was actually meteors. It has to come from somewhere else.
Right.
You know where I learned that?
None of
from
our
some
heavy
fucking
metals.
dude named Shane on my podcast.
Okay. I already gave you that, right? Everything here is all the heavy metals are brought here by other extraterrestrial bodies.
It's one of them calling right now. Extraterrestrial.
Yeah, that's my the owner of the company. You can talk with Chad. So we start with a piece of glass. I've already cleaned this piece of glass really well. So I cut these down by hand from 24-inch sheets. So I use a glass cutter, a little glass cutter. I could have these farmed out and come to my studio perfectly 8x10. You know, but that's not...
That's not fun.
Yeah, you can see here. Look,
I love it. I love the rough edge. I loved everything you handed me so far.
Look,
I love it.
Look at the corners.
I love it.
It's all
rough edge. Am I allowed to film this? I'm not breaching any trust or confidence.
No, you can do whatever you want.
I just kind of want. I just want snippets.
It's open space. So we've got the glass that's cleaned really well. And what we'll do is we'll go out there and kind of set up the shot. But I want you to come in and be able to see me pour the plate. And then we'll have to rush, okay? Because once the plate is poured, if the plate dries, we lose the image. So we'll have to rush from here. And once I immerse the plate, we'll have to rush out there. I have to get the focus and everything. We'll already have it set up a little bit. I'm just going to do just a close headshot of you. We're not going to do anything fancy. I just want to show you the process.
Cool.
And then, So we got that. Let me get this. Just certain things that gotta all be in place. It's not like, you know, people get this misconception that you just grab a camera. Oh, can you just grab your camera and come to Sioux Falls? And it's like, my entire Hummer is filled to the brim with equipment just to be able to do this on the road. I mean, and I do it on the road, but it's a rather daunting task. So I'm just getting my setup ready here. The reason why I'm explaining the cost is because the cost is today we don't have any skin in the game.
Right, with the digital.
You take a picture, it fucking didn't cost me a penny. You know, take a picture, it didn't cost me a penny. It didn't cost me nothing. I can delete it, take it out. We're in that mentality. But when you start freaking pouring, just when you just start at the base level of a $12 piece of glass, black glass from a church quality stained glass, I mean, it's a different perspective.
And then you said each image costs $148 when you broke it down.
That was last year. Yeah, that was the cost to run the studio. If you do the math, that's how much it cost me to run the studio. And I made 300 images last year.
All right, what you mixing up there, Chief?
We do a chair. The studio drink in the winter months is a cherry Manhattan with Woodford Reserve, some orange bitters, Luxardo cherries, the only cherries that you can actually put in any drink as far as I'm concerned, and a little bit of sweet vermouth.
Cool. And we got some talking heads cranking up on the vinyl.
Yep, and in the summer, we do gin and tonics.
Of course. Cheers.
Headquarters is about 5 or 10 miles from the Ferrari headquarters. So when Alessandro Ghibellini, the man who made this for me, says, "What color do you want the bellows?" And I said,
Ferrari red.
Ferrari red. You a fucking idiot? And so that's red Molly. This is my backup camera. Red Molly 1's in the other room. So yeah.
All right. So we're doing this.
Carl's Ice Tessar lens.
What's that? 300 mil?
Yeah, 300 millimeter. 4.5. Going to be wide open. I'm looking at the light right now in here. About 9 seconds of exposure.
So say what you were saying earlier about getting 10 seconds of your life, because you got to sit for the...
That's the romantic notion of this, is that these are not instant photographs, that I'm actually capturing 10 seconds of people's lives. So as a nurse, I know that their heart's going to beat about 15 times. They're going to take a shallow breath. They're going to have maybe a quick blink during that exposure. But what's most romantic about this is that the person can have a thought, and that thought can transfer to the plate. We have no fucking chance of capturing a thought to a plate when I'm taking this camera out, taking pictures at 1/16th of a second. So it's 600 times longer to make a wet plate exposure than it does a modern camera. Perfect. Okay, so have a seat. Relax and see if we can get a shot. Perfect. Get that. That necklace. It's really shiny. I can get rid of it and tuck it in. It's you. So we're just gonna get the shot. Put the head brace on you, and then you can stand up and go in there and hold the plate. You can watch me process it. Then come back and you're just gonna sit down gently and put your head back and hit
so you block the shot.
I usually don't do this. I usually if I'm taking a serious portrait of you, you're just sitting there and you're just letting me go through my thing. Okay. And you can go catch up on another plate, like I shoot someone else and you can go catch it. But we have this opportunity and I just want to show you pouring the plate. I'm making this first plate of you and I want you to see it made. Yeah. And sitting out here doesn't do you any good.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, let me put the head brace on you. So when you come back out, you have to just make sure you roll your feet on the ground, okay? That's ground. You get more points with the contact, butt to the chair, feet to the ground, the more points of contact, the steadier you're going to be. And I'm really in on your bug here, so you feel this head brace for the first time. So the sitting roll is the same sensation right here. So now, we know we don't have that. That helps you quite a bit. Because you think you're holding still. When I say people, I tell people No, like look at here.
It's the littlest. Right, because it blurs it.
You're sitting in a chair, you can I'm not moving here. I'm not open for it, right? So that little piece is just like, oh, you're on. So we know we're going to have that. So the only thing that you have to do before, just you're going to look right here at this little green.
Yeah.
And you have to blend. If you look out the window, if you do though, don't say you won't. It's 10 seconds is not before the thing. If you have to blend take it, don't worry about it. Just don't go like look out the window during that, so you've got to have 4 pupils open there. It's kind of crazy.
I don't want that.
No.
No, the thing I would love to have is the scale. Like that's really so if I don't need to blink, if that gives you the
And there's no smiling for there's no smiling for this process,
no,
right? It's just like it's this. I tell people you can drive on taking smiling pictures.
I hear you.
Come on. Let me show you something.
I don't like smiling anyway. Here, look. All right, let's talk about the iteration of this. What is that? It's a little bird, right?
It's about 100 years old.
It's got water in the base.
A photographer would have this in their mouth and has water in the base. And I got to oil him so he's not moving his mouth, would actually move and his tail flickers like that. And he makes a beautiful bird noise. I just got to work on mine here a second. And but this is what photographers use with children in photography studios when you heard the term watch the birdie. Watch the birdie. You've heard that a lot of times. If you're our age, you've heard that a lot. And this is what that refers to. There wasn't a bird in the photographic studio. It was one of these devices. We don't want to expose the plate to any of the light. So come on over.
Let me just turn this off.
No, it's okay. As long as you have it there, it's fine. Set the timer. Grab some developer. Come here. Come here. Closer. You got to get the plate covered completely. Start watching for an image here. About 20-25 seconds. We should, with any luck, hopefully start getting an image.
Holy shit.
Now you can use your camera. Now I got to rinse. It's still photosensitive until the point when I rinse. So now it's called the stop bath because I'm stopping the chemical reaction of the ferrous sulfate, copper sulfate developer. Guess what? We're turning that silver nitrate. I told you that you use nitric acid, you drop in coins or bars of silver, and it dissolves. But that's not in the metal form, right? That's silver not in a metal form. It's in a liquid form. I'm turning it back into the metal form here in the developer. This is called the latent image. It's the image that doesn't want to be seen.
It's called the what image?
Latent.
Oh, latent.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
latent image. So we're just going to rinse it really well.
It's kind of like me. I don't want to be seen.
Yeah. You're going to be seen like never before right here in a couple seconds. So we do have, you'll see here, we have like this, we have a shadow.
Yeah, you have a little ghost on there. It's really freaky.
Not really, I want to have a little bit of, and if I face you away from the window more and more, that dark side will get darker and darker and darker. So it's all about how I sit in my chair.
Sure.
Unbeknownst to my sitters, they don't understand what I'm doing. Why you sit in the chair not straight forward like you would think.
Yeah, no, you got your shadow side, the light wraps around.
Wherever you sit your butt down, where I want you to sit your butt, and that all adjusts my dark side.
Right.
Ready for this?
I don't know. I guess I am.
Okay.
I've been so nervous about this for...
There's nothing to be nervous about, man.
Kidding?
So here. Oh, we got a little bit of the necklace. See that?
So this is...
I want you to really just, you're going to put the camera where you can watch it, but I want you to watch it with your eyes, not through the screen.
I'm going to watch it. You can't watch your face. I don't want to watch
it. You ready? Here we go. Watch. Your image should disappear and reappear as a positive.
Holy shit. Holy fucking shit.
Oh, I love the blacks, right?
That is so goddamn amazing.
Look at the resolution. Look at the hairs. So I'll talk about the resolution. So we just made a photograph out of pure silver. Silver does not degrade. So you put a silver spoon on the ground, come back 500 years from now, there's a silver spoon there. This image will outlast any other photograph ever created of you in your 57 years of life. The other thing is the resolution of this. I'm writing in molecules of silver. How many molecules of silver at the tip of my finger for you to see with the human eye?
All I remember is you told me it would take a micron telescope.
2 billion molecules of silver at the tip of your finger to visualize it with the human eye. So I'm writing those molecules of silver. So you can take this to any university and just use a standard powered microscope, and you can't get to the pixel of grain that makes up the image. So this is the most high resolution photograph also that's ever been made of you. The most archival and the most high resolution right there in front of you.
I've never seen
170-year-old technology to do it, and we fucking abandoned this in 1885 for something more convenient. It wasn't a good enough reason. It wasn't a good enough reason. What do you want me to say?
You just told me that you were sweating.
I'm sweating right now. I'm
Why?
actually diaphoretic.
Because I'm the one that
because I have this need to make the best portrait of you that I could this afternoon, given the light that I have and the circumstances.
But I was nervous sitting, and you're nervous. You have 4,000 images taken.
4,832.
So I think it's really funny. I was terrified to sit because I was afraid what the camera would see. I talk about it in my podcast tomorrow.
Let's see what did it see?